Welcome to the world of science fiction stories, and don't forget to like, share and subscribe my channel. Enjoy the listening. They said no one could build it, humans proved them wrong. Arrival, deadly the silent fall. The sky over New Seattle glowed an angry orange even at midday. It had been that way for years now, the new normal since the climate shifts had worsened. Tom Miller stood at the window of his small apartment, watching as another dust storm approached from the east. These storms came almost weekly. Now, soon the air filters would kick on at full power and the building would seal itself tight. Tom checked his watch. He was due at the Global Science Foundation in 30 minutes. Today might change everything. Are you ready, Lisa? Reed's voice came from behind him. She stood in the doorway, data pad in hand, her dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail. Her eyes, sharp and focused, reflected the same mix of hope and fear that Tom felt. As ready as I'll ever be, Tom answered, grabbing his worn leather satchel. Did you double-check the calculations? Lisa nodded. Triple-checked. The math works, Tom, it really works. They left the apartment and made their way to the underground transit system. Above them, the first winds of the dust storm began to howl. The year was 2183, and Earth was dying, not quickly, mind you. There would be no dramatic explosion, no final moment when the planet simply gave up. Instead, it was a slow, grinding death, resources depleted, farmlands turned to dust, oceans rising, then poisoned, and billions crowded into megacities where air had to be filtered to be breathable. Humans had tried to fix things, of course. They had cut emissions, built massive carbon capture facilities, and changed their entire way of life, but it had been too little, too late. The damage was done, and then, 70 years ago, humanity had made first contact. The Galactic Council had introduced itself with great ceremony, 12 species from across the nearby stars, all advanced, all peaceful, all willing to welcome humanity into their community. They shared some technology, medical advancements, better energy systems, improved farming methods. These gifts had kept Earth alive, buying precious time, but they refused to share one thing: faster-than-light travel. Your species is not ready, they had said, perhaps in another 1,000 years. The transit car slowed at the Global Science Foundation station. Tom and Lisa exited and passed through security. Their meeting was scheduled for the Grand Hall, where the Foundation's board and representatives from the council would hear their proposal. I still can't believe they agreed to let us present, Lisa whispered as they walked down the long hallway. They think we're going to fail, Tom replied. They want to see us embarrass ourselves. Then let's surprise them. The Grand Hall was already full when they arrived. 50 human scientists and officials sat on one side of the room, and on the other side, 3 alien representatives watched with expressions ranging from boredom to mild curiosity. The tallest was Vex, ambassador from a species called the Erythi. His skin was pale blue, his eyes deep gold. He had been on Earth for 20 years and made no secret of his belief that humans were barely more than clever animals. Director Reynolds, head of the Foundation, stood to begin the meeting. We are here today to hear a proposal from engineers Miller and Reed regarding a new propulsion system. While the Foundation is skeptical of your claims, we have agreed to give you a fair hearing. Tom stepped forward, connecting his data pad to the display system. The lights dimmed, and a holographic model appeared above the center table. Ladies and gentlemen, and honored representatives of the council, Tom began, his voice steadier than he felt. For the past 3 years, Engineer Reed and I have been working on what we call the graviton sail. The hologram showed a sleek spacecraft with strange, petal-like structures extending from its hull. Current human ships can reach Mars in weeks and Jupiter in months, but the nearest star would take centuries. The Council has made it clear they will not share their FTL technology with us. Tom paused, looking directly at Vex. So we created our own. A murmur ran through the human side of the room while the aliens remained stone-faced. Lisa stepped forward. The graviton sail doesn't bend space or create wormholes. Instead, it manipulates quantum probability waves to create artificial gravity wells ahead of the ship. Essentially, the ship continually falls forward at accelerating speeds. She tapped her data pad, and a hologram began to move, showing the process. Our calculations show we could reach Proxima Centauri in less than 2 years. The room erupted, human scientists jumped to their feet, shouting questions. The alien representatives leaned in, suddenly paying very close attention. Vex stood slowly, his height intimidating as he towered over the table. The room fell silent. "This is amusing," he said, his translator making his voice sound metallic and cold. "You believe you have solved a problem that took our species millennia to crack. With your limited understanding of physics, we believe we found a different approach," Lisa replied, refusing to be intimidated. "Your approach violates 7 fundamental laws of quantum mechanics," Vex said. "Your ship would tear itself apart before it left your solar system." "With respect," Ambassador Tom said, stepping forward, "our math says otherwise." Vex's golden eyes narrowed. "Then your math is wrong." Director Reynolds cleared his throat nervously. "Perhaps we should review the technical details." "There is nothing to review," Vex interrupted. "This technology cannot work, it is as simple as that." He turned to address the human side of the room directly. "You are an adorably optimistic species, but scientifically naive. We have traveled the stars for 50,000 years, do you really think 2 humans in a lab could discover something we haven't?" The room fell uncomfortably silent. Tom felt his face burning with anger and embarrassment, but then, from the back of the room, a new voice spoke. "What if they have?" Everyone turned. A small, older man stood up, General Marcus Ward, head of Earth's United Defense Force. "I've reviewed their work," Ward continued. "I'm no physicist, but our best people are, and they say it could work." Vex made a sound that might have been a laugh. "Then your best people are fools," Ward said calmly. "But we were fools when we first tried to fly, fools when we went to the moon, fools when we built the first fusion reactor." He walked toward the center of the room. "Being called fools by those who came before has never stopped us." Vex turned to his fellow council members, they spoke briefly in their own language before he turned back to the humans. "We will not support this project, furthermore, we strongly advise against pursuing it for your own safety." With that, the alien representative stood and left the room. Director Reynolds sighed heavily. "I'm afraid that without council support, the Foundation cannot fund this project either." "I'm sorry." The room slowly emptied until only Tom, Lisa, and General Ward remained. "That went about as expected," Tom said bitterly. "Did it?" Ward asked, a small smile forming on his weathered face. "Walk with me." They followed him out into a private garden area, where Ward checked for listening devices before speaking again. "The world governments anticipated the Council's response," he said quietly. "We've been watching them for decades, they share some technology but hold back the important stuff, they keep us dependent, keep us earthbound." "So, what now?" Lisa asked. Ward's eyes cleared. "Now, we build your ship in secret. Every major nation on Earth has agreed to pool resources. We've prepared a facility beneath the Mauve Desert, you'll have everything you need." Tom stared at the general in shock. "The Council will find out eventually." Ward agreed, "but by then we'll have proven them wrong." He extended his hand. "Humanity's future depends on getting to the stars on our own terms. Are you in?" Tom and Lisa exchanged a look, then together they shook the general's hand. The impossible project had begun. 5 years passed like a dust storm, fast, harsh, and leaving everything changed in its wake. Deep beneath the Mauve Desert, in a facility that officially didn't exist, Tom Miller stared at the massive engine prototype hanging from reinforced ceiling cables. The graviton sail looked nothing like traditional engines, it resembled a giant metal flower with dozens of petal-shaped panels, each covered in a maze of quantum circuitry that glowed with a soft blue light. "Beautiful, isn't it?" Lisa Reed stood beside him, dark circles under her eyes, evidence of another all-night work session. Hard to believe we started with just equations on a screen. Tom nodded, too tired for words. The past 5 years had been the hardest of his life. The secret project, now codenamed Project Phoenix, had grown beyond just Tom and Lisa. It now employed over 300 scientists, engineers, and security personnel, all sworn to absolute secrecy. "Miller, Reed, we're ready for the meeting," said a voice. It belonged to James Wilson, their theoretical physicist, tall and thin with wild gray hair. James had been teaching advanced physics at Oxford when General Ward recruited him. Behind him stood Maria Garcia, their AI specialist, a quiet genius who had designed the quantum computers that made their calculations possible. Together, they formed the core team of Project Phoenix. The four of them walked to the central command room, where General Ward waited with several military officials and government representatives. The room fell silent as they entered. "Ladies and gentlemen, 5 years ago we started this project knowing two things: that Earth is running out of time, and that the Galactic Council has no intention of helping us leave. Today, our team will present their progress report," Ward began. He nodded to Tom. "Engineer Miller, the floor is yours." Tom stepped forward, activating the holographic display in the center of the room. "When we started, we had a theory, now, we have a working model," he said. "But more importantly, we've discovered something that changes everything we thought we knew about physics." The hologram showed complex equations and field models. Lisa stepped forward to explain, "The reason the Council said our design would fail is because, according to known physics, the energy required would be astronomical, and the quantum effects should cancel each other out." She paused before continuing, "But we found a flaw in the accepted understanding of quantum gravity." James Wilson joined them, his hands moving excitedly as he spoke. "Every species in the Council developed FTL travel by bending space, creating wormholes, or warping spacetime, but we took a completely different approach." Maria tapped her tablet, and the hologram changed to show a simulation. "We call it probability wave compression. Instead of trying to bend space, we're manipulating quantum fields to create artificial gravity wells that pull the spacecraft forward. The ship essentially falls through space at incredible speeds." General Ward frowned. "In simple terms, please." Tom smiled. "We're not breaking the rules of physics, we're exploiting a loophole. Imagine space as a sheet of fabric, other species punch through it to make shortcuts, we're creating a downhill slope and letting gravity do the work." When one of the officials asked about the energy requirements, Lisa answered, "They are only a tenth of what would be needed for traditional FTL methods, which is why we believe the Council either doesn't know about this approach or they do, and they don't want us to know about it." General Ward finished, "Exactly." Tom added, "Either way, we're ready for the first full-scale test tomorrow." The room broke into excited murmurs. After 5 years of work, they were finally going to see if their impossible engine could actually work. The next day, everyone gathered in the test chamber, a massive underground cavern reinforced with the strongest materials available. The prototype engine was mounted in a test frame surrounded by sensors and protective barriers. Tom, Lisa, James, and Maria stood at the control station behind thick blast shields. Tom looked at his team, seeing his own mix of fear and hope reflected in their faces. "Ready?" he asked. 3 nods answered him. "Then let's make history," Tom said, beginning the startup sequence. The engine's pedals began to glow, first blue, then purple, then a blinding white. The air in the chamber seemed to ripple like heat waves rising from hot pavement, the quantum field stabilizing. Lisa reported, "Wave compression at 15%, 30%, 45%, energy levels holding steady." Maria added, "The AI is adjusting the field harmonics automatically." James stared at his screen, frowning. "I'm seeing some unusual patterns in the probability matrix," he began, but never finished his sentence. A sudden flash of light erupted from the engine, brighter than the sun. A shock wave slammed into the blast shields, cracking them. Alarms blared as emergency systems activated. When the dust settled, the test frame was destroyed. Where the engine had been, there was only a twisted mass of metal and a strange, swirling distortion in the air that slowly faded away. Jenkins Rodriguez Ward. General Ward shouted into his communicator. The two engineers manning the sensor stations closer to the engine didn't respond, they never would again. The failure hit the team hard for 2 weeks. They analyzed what went wrong, barely sleeping, barely eating. The project was put on hold pending a full investigation. Later, as the team reconvened in a small break room surrounded by data screens and empty coffee cups, Tom said, "We missed something. The quantum fields weren't just compressing, they were folding, somehow creating a cascade effect." James added while running simulations on his tablet, "But if we adjust the pit configuration and add a dampening field, we could control the fold." Suddenly energized, Lisa finished, "It's not a flaw in our design, it's a feature we didn't understand." Maria, who had been quiet since the accident, finally spoke up, "I've been running AI simulations non-stop. What if the reason this approach works isn't just about creating gravity wells? What if we're actually manipulating the fabric of spacetime itself, just not in the way other species do it?" They worked through the night, redesigning the engine from the ground up. When General Ward arrived the next morning, they were waiting for him with new plans and simulations. "We know what went wrong," Tom said, "and we know how to fix it." Ward looked at them skeptically. "2 men died, Miller, I need more than just confidence." "It's not confidence," Lisa replied, "it's certainty. The first test proved our basic theory works. The engine did exactly what we designed it to do, it created a gravity well, we just didn't account for how powerful it would be." 3 months later, they were ready for the second test. The new prototype looked similar to the first but with crucial differences. The pedals were arranged in a different pattern, and a secondary system, what they called the dampening ring, surrounded the main engine. This time, the test was conducted remotely with no personnel in the chamber. The startup sequence began, the pedals glowed, the air rippled, but this time there was no explosion. Instead, the engine hummed with power, the distortion around it stable and controlled. "It's working," Lisa whispered, staring at the readings. Field compression at 60%, 80%, 100%, full compression achieved for 5 minutes. They held the field stable, then carefully shut it down. The glow faded, the distortion disappeared, and the engine remained intact. The room erupted in cheers. Tom hugged Lisa, then James, then Maria. They had done it. They had built what the council said was impossible. But as the celebration continued, Maria pulled Tom aside, her expression troubled. "There's something you should see," she said, showing him a data screen. "During the test, I detected something unusual. When we create these gravity wells, we're not just affecting the space around the engine, we're creating ripples, like waves in a pond, that spread out through spacetime." "Is it dangerous?" Tom asked. Maria hesitated. "I don't know, but whatever these ripples are, they're traveling faster than light, and they're not stopping." Tom looked back at the celebrating team, at General Ward already making calls to government officials. They had overcome the impossible, they had defied the laws of physics as understood by the most advanced species in the galaxy. But as Maria's words sank in, he wondered if they had just opened a door that should have remained closed. "They're watching us more closely now," General Ward said, pointing to the satellite images displayed on the main screen. 3 more Council observation ships entered Earth's orbit last week. Later, the core team of Project Phoenix sat around the conference table in the deepest level of the MOA facility. 8 months had passed since their successful engine test, and things had changed. The project had moved from theoretical to practical, from, "Can we build it?" to, "When will it fly?" Tom rubbed his tired eyes. "Have they said why?" "They're increasing surveillance. Officially, they're conducting a routine survey of developing worlds," Ward replied with a bitter smile. "Unofficially, we think they've detected something, maybe those ripples." Maria, who had spent months studying the strange spacetime disturbances created by their engine tests, spoke up, "I've managed to dampen the ripples by 60%, but we can't eliminate them completely. It's like trying to jump into a pool without making waves, physically impossible. Lisa nervously tapped her fingers on the table. So, what's our timeline now? Ward's face hardened. The World Council met yesterday. They've decided we need to move forward immediately. The public announcement goes out tomorrow. What announcement? James asked, frowning. That Project Phoenix has been terminated due to safety concerns and treaty obligations with the Galactic Council. The room fell silent as the implication sank in. So that's it, Tom finally said, 5 years of work and we just give up. Ward's smile returned. This time, he said with a glint of mischief in his eyes, that's what the public announcement will say. Meanwhile, we're moving to Phase 2. He pressed a button on his tablet, and the display changed to show a massive spacecraft under construction, not on Earth, but in orbit. For the past 3 years, we've been secretly building components at facilities around the world, disguised as satellite parts or space station modules. Each piece individually looks harmless, together, they form Phoenix, Lisa whispered as she stared at the image. The ship was beautiful, sleek and purposeful, nearly 300 meters long, with a central hull surrounded by what looked like folded metal beetles. The full-scale graviton sail assembly had begun 6 months ago during scheduled maintenance blackouts of the Council's observation systems, Ward explained. We have 9 more scheduled blackouts to complete construction, then we launch. James shook his head in disbelief. The Council will detect a launch that size, not if we time it correctly. Maria said, understanding dawning on her face, we launch during another blackout, exactly. Ward confirmed, once a year, the Council's main monitoring satellite network passes through Earth's shadow cone at precisely the same time their orbital platforms perform maintenance cycles. We'll have approximately 26 minutes when their sensors are blind, and after those 26 minutes, once we're detected, it won't matter. Phoenix will activate its graviton sail and disappear. 2 months later, final preparations were underway. The ship was 95% complete, the crew had been selected, 12 of Earth's best pilots, engineers, scientists, and medical personnel. Captain Robert Walker, a veteran of the Mars colonies, would command the mission. The core team had relocated to the hidden Launch Control Center beneath the old Kennedy Space Center. From there, they would guide Phoenix on its maiden voyage. Late one night on the observation deck, Lisa found Tom staring at the stars through the reinforced glass ceiling. Can't sleep? She asked, joining him. Tom shook his head. I keep thinking about what we're asking them to do. This is a one-way mission, Lisa, even if everything works perfectly, they'll never see Earth again. They all volunteered, Lisa reminded him softly. They know what's at stake, don't they? Tom turned to face her. Maria's latest calculations show the ripples aren't just waves in spacetime, they're more like tears. We're ripping holes in reality every time we activate the sail. Lisa was silent for a moment. Does General Ward know? Yes, so do Captain Walker and his crew, they're still going because they have to, Lisa said quietly. Earth is dying, Tom. The Council won't help us. This is our only chance. 3 days before launch, disaster struck. A Council ambassador requested an emergency meeting with Earth's leaders. Somehow, they had discovered fragments of information about Project Phoenix. The World Council acted quickly. They publicly denounced the rogue scientists who had allegedly continued research into forbidden technologies. They invited Council inspectors to examine all space launch facilities to prove their compliance, and secretly, they accelerated the launch schedule. We go tomorrow, General Ward, announced the stunt team. 300 hours, the Council's inspection teams arrive at 900. We need to be gone before they get here. The ship isn't ready, James protested. The navigational systems still need calibration, and the life support systems will have to be finalized in orbit. Ward cut him off. This is no longer about building the perfect ship, this is about proving we can do it at all. Throughout the night, the team worked frantically to prepare. Communications with Phoenix were kept to a minimum to avoid detection. Captain Walker and his crew boarded with only the essentials, leaving behind fearful families who could not be told the truth about where they were going. Back at the control center, Tom, Lisa, James, and Maria took their positions. General Ward stood behind them, watching the countdown timer, T-5 minutes. Tom announced in a steady voice despite his racing heart, all systems nominal. Graviton sail is powered down but ready for activation once we reach safe distance, Lisa reported. Navigation coordinates locked in, James added, course set for Proxima Centauri, and quantum field dampeners at maximum. Ripple effect should be minimal during initial launch, Maria said. T-1 minute. Around the world, in secret bunkers and hidden facilities, government leaders and project scientists watched the feed. No one spoke, no one breathed. T-10 seconds, 9, 8. On board Phoenix, Captain Walker gripped his control panel, his crew, Earth's best and bravest, secured themselves for launch. 3, 2, 1, launch. With no fanfare, no roaring engines, no massive plume of flame, Phoenix detached from its construction platform. Conventional thrusters, silent in the vacuum of space, pushed it away from Earth's orbit. To any observer, human or alien, it would appear to be just another satellite repositioning. Phoenix reports clean separation, Lisa said. Now entering boost phase for 2010 minutes. Phoenix accelerated away from Earth using standard propulsion. The Council's observation blackout will end in 6 minutes, Ward reminded. 3 minutes, Tom replied, and they'll be at minimum safe distance. Then the seconds ticked by with excruciating slowness, 1 minute to blackout end. Maria warned, Phoenix reports ready for Graviton sail activation. Lisa said, Captain Walker requests final authorization. General Ward took a deep breath, then nodded. Tell them, Godspeed. Tom sent the signal on board Phoenix. Captain Walker received the message, then turned to his crew. This is it, he said simply. For Earth. He pressed the activation sequence in the control room. All eyes were on the main display, showing Phoenix as a small blip moving away from Earth, its graviton sail activating. For a brief moment, sensors detected a massive energy surge. The blip that was Phoenix seemed to stretch, elongate, and then vanish, signal lost. Phoenix is gone. Did it work? Ward demanded. Or did it? It worked, Maria interrupted, staring at her readings. The quantum field signatures match our test models, they've successfully entered compressed space. Council blackout ends in 10 seconds, James warned, as the countdown reached 0. The team held their breath. Would the Council immediately detect what had happened? Would they realize humans had just done the impossible? But the minutes ticked by, and no alarm sounded, no angry communications came from the Council ships in orbit. Nothing, Tom finally said, amazed. They don't know. General Ward nodded, satisfaction and pride warring with concern on his weathered face. Now we wait and hope they find what we're looking for. Maria's console suddenly beeped. She frowned, checking the readings. What is it? Lisa asked. I'm detecting something strange, Maria replied. Those ripples in spacetime we were monitoring, they just changed direction. What does that mean? Ward demanded. Maria looked up, her eyes wide. I think something out there noticed us, and it's coming this way. Time behaved strangely inside the bubble created by the graviton sail, Captain Robert Walker realized as he stared at his watch, which seemed to tick at normal speed even though the stars outside the viewports were smeared into long streaks of light. How fast are we moving? He asked, turning to Emma Foster, the ship's physicist. Emma checked her instruments and shook her head in amazement. Captain, we're moving faster than our equipment was designed to measure. During their first week of travel, the 12 crew members of Phoenix settled into a routine. The ship hummed around them, and the graviton sail functioned beyond their expectations. There had been a moment of pure terror when the sail first activated, a violent shudder through the ship, a sensation like being stretched thin and then smoothness. The stars had shifted into streaks, and Earth had vanished behind them. Jack Davis, the chief engineer, floated into the bridge in the limited artificial gravity. They all moved with a light, bouncing step that still felt strange. "Captain, I've completed the analysis of the sail's energy consumption," he reported. "It's using only 40% of what we predicted. At this rate, we could travel for years without depleting our reserves." "Good," Walker nodded. "Any problems with the sail itself?" Jack hesitated. "Not problems exactly, but we're seeing some strange patterns in the quantum field. Every 12 hours there's a sort of pulse, like a heartbeat." Dr. Foster offered a theory as Emma brought up a holographic display showing waves of energy emanating from the ship. "The sail isn't just creating a bubble of compressed space around us, it's creating something like a tunnel through spacetime. These pulses are the walls of the tunnel adjusting to our passage." Walker frowned. "Is it stable so far?" Emma replied, "Yes, but there's something else. During each pulse, we experience what I'm calling a phase shift. For about 3 seconds, the ship partially exists outside normal space." "What does that mean in practical terms?" Walker asked. "It means we become undetectable, no radiation signature, no mass reading, nothing. We essentially disappear, then reappear." "Could we control these phase shifts?"